Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 19th, 2023. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Jonah Booker. All right, man, let's get down to it. This is your idea. We talked about it on Twitter last night. I'm like, what are we going to talk about on the show tomorrow? You're like, how about we rank the scholarship running backs in order 1 through 5? All right, good idea, sir. You go first. Rank the running backs in order 1 through 5.
All right, before we get started, Dave, let's make sure we get some housekeeping things. There is no wrong answer here. This is just opinion. It's a flawed system. We just kind of came up with it on the fly. One thing that we wanted to go through, Dave, is all right. If we're going to rank them, let's dig it a little bit deeper to say what are we basing these rankings off of, and came up with 7 criteria: vision, pass blocking, elusiveness, home run ability, catching out of the backfield, durability, and physicality. So just having some type of parameters there, Dave, it kind of helped me rank the running backs. Let's start with number 1. It was a close one, Dave, and it went back and forth here. I know a lot of people may disagree with me, so let's break it down. I have for number 1, Dallin Hayden versus Travion Henderson as the top running back. I'm looking at Dallin Hayden. You saw how yoked up he was coming out of spring workouts, put on 10 to 12 pounds. When I'm looking at the vision, I got to give it to Dallin Hayden. Pass blocking, I have it as a wash. Elusiveness, slight edge to Hayden. I know Henderson, sometimes has trouble making guys miss at the line of scrimmage. Home run ability, that's clearly in Travion's favor. You want to talk about pass catching out of the backfield, I got to give that to Henderson. Durability, which is a big thing for me, Dave, I got to give it to Dallin Hayden. I know a lot of people are going to reference just last year for Henderson as far as injuries being played. But if you remember that freshman year, he was banged up a lot. I know he lied to the media about or to the coaches about having a concussion, and he spilled that out to the media. There are so many times his freshman year where he was in and out, in and out, in and out. And you look over and you're like, hey, there's been long stretches of the game that Henderson has been missing, and it's because come to find out he was banged up. So I'm gonna give him a slight ding even for his freshman year. So I got to go with durability towards Hayden, and physicality. I give that to Henderson. I thought Henderson, when he had the opportunity, he ran hard. So to me it came out to a slight edge with Dallin Hayden, Dave.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the reason I say that I give a slight edge is if I'm going through this based off the criteria and they're both even, as far as which one does something better than the other, I'm going to give the slight edge to the younger guy, fresher legs, and the guy who has less wear and tear on his body, and durability and availability. Those are 2 big key metrics for me, Dave, when it comes to the running back. I need you to be there. I need you to be healthy on the field. And I truly believe if Dallin Hayden had the same amount of touches that Henderson had last year, you're talking about another 1,000-yard back.
Let me ask you this before I give my ranking. What do you make of the coaches last year? I mean, late in the season, Dallin had his breakout game against Maryland. He was healthy against Michigan. They started Chip over Dallin. He barely played. And then against Georgia, he was, I think, the healthiest of the backs, and he barely played. What do you make of that? You think it was ball security issues?
I mean, that's a great point, and I thought about that with the rankings because I could make a clear argument that Chip could be your number 1 running back,
He looked
especially.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, he looked good. Like I can go down this list and make a solid argument to say this is why I believe Chip is your top back. I do think it could have been ball security issues there with the stakes so high against Michigan and Georgia. You're talking about 2 playoff teams. I think there was a trust factor that played in there. But when you're talking about a guy who was coming, I was a little disappointed though that we didn't see Hayden against Michigan. And Chip ran well. I thought Chip ran extremely well. And if Ryan Day didn't abandon the run in the second half, Dave, Chip was running wild against Michigan. I think he was averaging like 7, 8 yards a pop or something like crazy like that. But I just think that in this situation right now, going into next season, Dave, with everything, all five guys back healthy, I give a slight edge to Dallin Hayden over Henderson. So my first two is Hayden, Henderson number two. So I'll let you go.
All right, I'm gonna just give my 5, and man, this is so tough. I'm gonna stick with Travion Henderson number 1, but it's really tough because you've got me thinking here. Like, but I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna go Travion 1. Not much of a gap here. Mayan, I'm gonna go Mayan number 2. Mayan was really good early in the season last year. I think everybody like focuses on when he was banged up, and like he didn't look good at the end of the year because he was banged up big time. Multiple injuries, nothing that kept him out, but like he had multiple injuries. Hand, knee, bunch of different things going on. I think when Mayan's healthy, he's a very good running back, but it's close. It's really close. I have Chip and Dallin tied for third. I have them bracketed. I couldn't pick between those two, Chip and Dallin in whatever order, third, fourth, and I have Evan Pryor fifth. I feel bad putting him fifth because I love his high school film, but he's coming off a serious injury. If he was coming off a torn ACL, that'd be bad enough. He's coming off something even worse than the knee, the torn patellar tendon. Not to get too into the weeds, that's even worse than a torn ACL, though. So hopefully Evan Pryor is going to be okay. But that's my order. So who you got 3 through 5? I'm curious.
Yeah, at number 3, I went with Chip, and it was a breakdown between Chip and Mayan. And I look at it. You look at what Chop can do, and with that being said, I look at Chip Trainum. He can do everything that Mayan can do, but he also gives you that pass catching ability out of the backfield. He also brings that home run hitting ability to where he can take a ball 70 yards to the house. You don't worry about him getting tracked down. I know they said something along the lines that Chip was being clocked at 21, 22 miles per hour speed. That's one of the reasons why they had him back there at kickoff. So you look at it like this, Dave. Could Mayan Williams go back there and return kicks with his top end speed? Absolutely not. Can Chip Trainum go back behind the backfield, do all the things that they're asking Mayan to do? Yes, he could. And he brings a little bit more element to the table. We also talk about durability. I think Mayan had, some durability issues down the stretch, though. I think that's a product of how violent he runs. And I would say this, though. I did give Mayan the edge over Chip when it comes to his ability to make people miss at the line of scrimmage. I think he has a great jump cut. You saw it against Clemson his freshman year. You saw it numerous times these last couple of years, his ability. But and then we talk about number 5, Evan Pryor. If I would really wonder where his game would be at if he didn't have that setback day, because he's kind of the wild card. He's the one that can give you that slasher type of role. I think he brings a little bit more smoothness to the running back room. So if he can get healthy, all bets are off. But man, it is an absolutely great problem to have, because you can really make an argument through 1 through 4 who should be the top running back. I wouldn't want to be Tony Alford, Dave, going into the season trying to figure out who's gonna get touches and how many touches, because each guy brings a different element to the table. I mean, Dallin Hayden probably had an opportunity to go start back at Tennessee. You look at him, with the weight that he's put back on, he probably could start at almost every Big Ten school besides Michigan, Penn State. And you look at Chip Trainum. He has a track record at Arizona State where he played at a high level at the running back position. We saw in limited time what he can do against Michigan. He was pretty much the running back in spring that a lot of people was buzzing over, talking about how physical, how hard he was running. And then we all forget Travion Henderson, 1,500 all-purpose yards or something along those lines his freshman year. There was a lot of Heisman hype with him going into that sophomore year. A lot of people were making a case that him and Bijan Robinson were the 2 best running backs in the country. Can he get back to that level? If he does, or if he can, and he can stay healthy, then I think all bets are off to say, hey, he's clearly the best running back in college football if he can get back to that level that we saw as a freshman.
It's so interesting. You mentioned, Tony Alford's put together an excellent room. I said the same thing going into last year, and Chip was a linebacker at the time. We've never seen an Ohio State team. Going back since I was a little kid, I've never seen an Ohio State team that decimated at running back by injuries. They've had years where if they had the starter got hurt, they were like in big trouble. Like in 2002 when Clarett got hurt, the running game just went in the tank, because Lydell Ross was not ready to pick it up. Maurice Hall was good at what he did, kickoff returns, third down back, but he wasn't ready to be a full-time back. I mean, they were down. So Evan Pryor lost during camp last year. And then Travion Henderson, broke his foot early in the season, was dealing with that all year. Mayan was banged up. They moved Chip back to running back. So Chip and Dallin were the only guys that were healthy. It was crazy. So if they can stay reasonably healthy this year, I am extremely bullish on this running back group. Like whoever is 1 through 5, whether you're right, I'm right. Tony Alford's opinion is the one that matters the most. But man, this stacked room, if they can stay reasonably healthy, I am extremely bullish on this group.
There's like we said, Dave, there's no wrong answer here. All of the guys in that room are extremely talented. And we list these 5, but we can't forget what Xavier Johnson brings to the table. He's another weapon that should probably get 4 to 5 touches at least a game. We saw what Xavier Johnson could do against Georgia. He's coming back as a 6-year guy that can play the hybrid role. He was a former running back. He's shown that he has that dog in him. He was able to take some carries, Dave, when those guys were banged up. His ability to make people miss had me standing up on my feet like, hey, let's go, Xavier Johnson. And so he's another kid that if you wanted to throw him in there as a 6, you can make an argument Xavier Johnson over Evan Pryor. Which one would you take at that point? But it's a beautiful thing, Dave. It's a beautiful thing as far as this Ohio State offense, because you combine that with all of the wide receivers that they have, and then Cade Stover at tight end. Like whoever wins this quarterback battle, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches on the offensive side of the football.
So the one question mark is offensive line. User on Twitter, when we were talking about what we're going to talk about on the show today, asked, can you guys also talk about, when you're done talking about running backs, can you talk about offensive line, your thoughts there? I said, yes, we will. So now we're going to do that. So that's the one question mark, in my opinion. How big of a concern is it in your book, J-Book?
It's fairly big, Dave. But I would say this, I have faith in Justin Frye that he's going to be able to get those guys ready to go. Feel really good about the interior. I think the interior of the offensive line is going to be stellar. Donovan Jackson, if you look at a lot of the mock drafts, he's being pegged in the first 2 rounds. I think Matthew Jones was solid last year, battled some injuries. I thought that it was courageous of him to still try to go out there, even though he could barely move with that foot or ankle injury. Getting him back healthy, I think he's going to be playing at an elite level. Carson Hinsman on the inside, I think he has the potential to be an all Big Ten type of caliber, Remington Award watch list type of guy as he continues to progress. And then, it's up to the tackles. Which side would Josh Fryer be on? Is he is he a true left tackle? I don't think he's a true left tackle, but I think he's going to be serviceable enough to be able to protect over there. And then you get the San Diego transfer. I think he's going to push. And I would say this. I don't think Zen and Tegra are bad players by any means necessary. I just don't know if they're ready right now to play at an elite level. I don't know if Tegra has the feet, Dave, to be out there on the edge. He may be better interior guy. I think that's where they started him at. And they looked at the offensive tackle depth chart and thought that it's like, hey, we got to get him out there just to see if he can play the tackle position. But with that being said, Dave, I think you might see early on in the season an Ohio State offense that looks a little different than what we've seen in the past. Because as we go through the rankings of these running backs right now, you're breaking in a new quarterback. You got 2 new offensive tackles. I think they're going to lean on that running game early because you're feeling pretty good about the interior guys. Hey, let's feed the rock to these talented running backs, get that offensive line mowing people downhill, pushing people off the football. And then as we progress, then we can start, throwing in some play action here, start getting Kyle McCord or Devin Brown a little bit more comfortable. We don't have to rely on be a pass first offense. We can get back to being a physical football team, running the football, establishing a run. And if you can do that, I think that would really help that offensive line gel. But it's a slight concern because the unknown of the tackles. But if you're talking about the interior, feel really good about that position.
Yeah, definitely. That's the really good part. At least they have both starting guards back, and both of them are really good. And I agree. Donovan Jackson's the best offensive lineman on this team. I'm hoping he stays for a fourth year, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, you mentioned Justin Frye. If he can get this line playing well, not average, but actually it being a strength of the team, that'll be a huge feather in his cap because we haven't seen Ohio State lose that much to the draft. They had 3 offensive linemen drafted. Yeah, DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler fell further than anybody thought, but Paris Johnson was the first offensive lineman off the board, 6th overall pick. You lose those 3 guys. If they can reload, that's going to be huge. So we'll see. That's the one concern that I have, though.
Yeah, I will say this. Justin Frye is going to need to earn his money this year, Dave. You mentioned the draft, but you also have to take into consideration the amount of misses that we had at the offensive line position under stud. Now, you look at Justin Frye, you're going to say, hey, this isn't you, but this is going to be the mess that you're going to have to clean up because what was left before you came in here. So I expect him to be able to get those guys playing at a high level. It's just a matter of how high can they go, Dave? Because if they can't protect the quarterback, it doesn't matter. I mean, you look at that Michigan front; they're going to be loaded. Penn State feels really good about their front 7. Notre Dame, they're going to try to bring the house and stack the box against them. So you're going to have to be able to eventually open it up. Yes, I said they're going to have to rely on the run game. With that being said, if you're relying on the run game, what are you going to see? You're going to see 7, 8-man fronts where teams are walking a safety down into the box to try to stop the run. And when that happens, you got to be able to go up top with Marvin, Emeka, all of the wide receivers. But you can only do that if you can protect the quarterback. So I do think that, they have so many weapons, Dave, but it all starts up front. If they can figure it out, I do believe that this will be a playoff team. I do believe this team has more than a legitimate shot to go up to Ann Arbor. I think they're going to go up there and handle their business, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, Notre Dame, that's not going to be an easy battle going into South Bend. You look at Penn State, they're going to be absolutely loaded this year. That's going to be a battle. So, yeah, they got their work cut out for them, but make no mistake, incredibly, incredibly talented.
Last thing, Aaron Scott, number 1 player in the state of Ohio, corner out of Springfield, the number 4 corner in the country in the 2024 class. It was like, man, is he kind of like leaning toward Michigan? There was some buzz out there. Now it seems like the momentum is toward Ohio State. It doesn't mean he's for sure going to be a Buckeye, but what are you hearing about Aaron Scott? Seems like it's good news on the Ohio State front for Aaron Scott.
Right now, it's like, who knows, Dave, with this kid. I mean, he's a social media wizard. I mean, he knows how to play up both fan bases. He gets the Michigan faithful all fired up with his social media interactions. So who knows? I mean, you go into these visits, you're going to recruit him as hard as possible. I know Ohio State's making him a priority. At this point, I'm at the mind frame of if they get him, great. If not, move on because they're on so many other elite cornerbacks right now, Dave, that yes, it would sting just because that's in the in-state, highly regarded cornerback. You want to be able to keep those guys in your backyard. But if worst comes to worst, they do miss them. I do believe that they have a lot of talented guys that are on their board that are highly considering Ohio State. But yeah, I just think that right now it's a yin and yang back and forth depending on which beat writer, which site throws in the crystal ball, which site talks to him. So who knows, David? It may go down to the stretch here to say, Ohio State versus Michigan battle. I don't know which way he's leaning, but next week it could be Michigan. Week after that could be Ohio State. But I do know that Ohio State is making this kid a priority. They're going to do everything that they can to get him. And I would just say don't read too much into all his social media posts because the kid loves the attention. He loves the back and forth between the Michigan fan base and Ohio State fan base. In today's social media world, what a better way to drive up your interactions, drive up your NIL value.
No doubt about it. I tell you what, man, I live in the far west side of Columbus. I'm originally from Dayton. Springfield is like 35 minutes from my house. He better be a Buckeye, okay? Can't lose someone that close. I know Trey DePriest was also from Springfield, but he turned out to not even be that good. Aaron Scott's the real deal. They need to land the number 1 player in the state of Ohio, especially one right down the road here. Great stuff from Jonah Booker. Really appreciate it, Jay Book. Thank you for the idea for the show today. Thank you for coming strong as always. Great stuff out of Jonah Booker. Thanks to all of you for tuning into the show. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend.